Surprise! Are you surprised? This is Common Filth Radio, episode 86. Thank you very much for listening. A special Thursday edition, though not the first time I've released an episode of the show on Thursday. But I have some stuff to do. I have some big stuff planned. It all has to do with video projects, something I may have promised you a couple months ago, something that needs to get done, and something I will get done, and more. I have something very big planned, and that's all I'm going to say, because if I elaborate too much, I will jinx it. And we'll start today by talking about that Allison Rapp character who works for Nintendo and was revealed to be a pedophile apologist. Among other things, she also has apparently a homosexual husband, or like a bi-curious husband, who took her last name. According to Encyclopedia Dramatica. I know a lot of you might have a problem with that, but, it's as good as we're gonna get. So I'm scrolling down to the part where it talks about her husband here, and I'm gonna make a point. Okay, husband, this is from Encyclopedia Dramatica. But what's more, she has a husband, Jake Rapp. He describes himself as a feminist, wears women's clothing in selfies, votes for Bernie Sanders, and is a total cuck. In 9 months, she'll give birth to a black baby, and he'll outpraise it. Well, let's, I wouldn't go that far, but it's within the wheelhouse of reality. But Rapp, by the way, is Allison's original surname. It came from her father. So her cuckold husband took to her last name and abandoned his. Normally, a feminist woman will require their last names to be hyphenated like Carrie Cohn. And all scientific studies find that all marriages like this always end in divorce within 3 years because the wife gets bored of having sex with only one man for years. But Allison is so extreme and her husband is so emasculated that he took her last name and she didn't take his. Which, extrapolating those studies, means some insane shit you would not believe. And I don't know how much of this is true, but there's a picture of this guy. Yeah, he looks like what you would expect. And it's like, look, I get it. We could all, papers, please. That would be our 23andMe results, right? And it would say all the right things, 99.9% European, Northern European, 0.1% unassigned. We'd have our papers, and it would say, like, we're pure white. And this guy would certainly have his. But really, is this what you want to have on your team? I don't want him on my team, so, yeah. I understand that people are mostly wrong, people like this, people that lower themselves to such an extent, taking their, wife's last name, not only that, but, one that describes herself as a bi-poly queer, but still super privileged, and it's important for me to hear from trans plus folks. So please do introduce yourself. Now, like I said, nobody can be wrong 100% of the time, and this guy, he had a moment of heterosexual clarity, which I'm sure this guy is quite flexible. He had clarity, but he wants to hold on to that and will lower himself to taking this whore's last name. One who defends pedophiles, child rapists, we'll get to that in a second. This is a female who brags about being polyamorous. That right there, disqualified. Bye, disqualified, done, bye, queer, bye, 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 bye. Yeah, this guy said, no, hi, please. You gave me some attention, and I don't want to let that go. And how many among us deny that sex is the ultimate mechanism of control? That those of whom are lost, who don't understand that you don't need to do this, that you don't need to lay down with the first thing you see and put up with this psychotic bullshit. But you can tell just by looking at this guy, he looks completely maldeveloped, and he's wearing Wait. This is a picture, and I'll let the caption explain, because, it's hard to edit in this stuff, but bathroom selfie in a woman's cut shirt because I'm a victim of feminism. Help. Allison Rapp's husband is a total cuck. Of course she cheats on him. And apparently the Daily Stormer broke this story, and I'm looking at the pictures right now that their comparison picture between her call girl profile and her just candid photos, selfies, whatever you want to call them. And the tattoos between her whore pictures and her just regular pictures, they are identical. So this woman, she confirmed prostitute, and this guy puts up with it. He puts up with it. He puts up with laying down with a whore. He wants this for himself. This petri dish, this walking petri dish of a woman, Allison Rapp. And he has no spine, and you can see it in his eyes. His raised eyebrows, his childish expression, and he's wearing a woman's t-shirt. Whatever group, historical, biblical group we belong to, the Japhethite people, I think it is, the Edomite people, whatever it is, you are seeing a reversal of polarity, where the women, they want dicks, the men act like pussies, and this is what happens. Your women are disloyal. Your men have no spine. You think I like belonging to a people where this behavior is so rampant? Now, we only pay attention to this Allison Rapp story because it's so extreme. It's so out of left field and ridiculous we have to pay attention. But how often does this manifest itself in more ordinary, more socially acceptable ways, like divorce? There is no reason to get a divorce. It is a lifelong commitment, and we've made a mockery of it. The greatest generation gave us baby boomers who made a mockery of absolutely everything. And what results from it? Gen X, who taught their kids that homosexuals are more virtuous than cishetes, it is a Gen X thing. Millennials are just, they're preaching the gospel. They're spreading the gospel of Sodom at this point. That's their religion. I've provided so many examples that you can't prove me wrong on that. But let's go back before that, because this is very late stage decay we're talking about. Let's go back to the baby boomers and how they're hyper-consumerist, hyper-promiscuous, believe in divorce, think that abortion's a great thing. In fact, you should get one. Marriage is temporary. Let's have kids we don't want. Let's abuse the kids we do have. A mockery of everything that is important. The bedrock of society, any society. Doesn't matter where you go. Any civilized society, they have intact families. We view divorce, second, third, fourth marriages, single motherhood as a given. Single motherhood and divorce is woven into the fabric of society. It is in the molecules of the air we breathe. That is how we take it for granted. We just think it's something that happens, and it's just whatever, it's just some sad, unfortunate thing. The reason why my work here resonates with so many people is because I put that into words, what kind of damage divorce, single motherhood does. Somebody on Twitter, and remind me who this was, I was talking about tattoos, and if this was you, say it. You put it so eloquently. Tattoos are permanent reminders of temporary feelings. Now, even more damaging than tattoos, which I think are horrible, children. Children that are a product of temporary feelings. I don't know what that's like, to be honest with you, but given the amount of people who belong to single mothers who are in prison, I can get a pretty good idea. Most children cannot deal with the idea that they are a product of a temporary thing. This is just how we feel at the moment. Oh, don't worry, we still love you though, even though we are dividing your loyalty in two and will cause you feelings of conflict for the rest of your childhood. Maybe even for the rest of your adulthood. Maybe for the rest of your life. I don't know. At some point, I'm sure some people get over it. But at the point they get over it, how much damage has been done? How many failed relationships have they had? How many kids have they had at that point where they get over it? And continuing it on and on and on and on. Where the kids from the children of divorced people, they're now seeking something that they view as more virtuous, which is what you get now. You get the whole LGBT thing. They're nice, so I'm just going to leave it at that. They don't realize that those people are just as dysfunctional as what they came from. They just don't want to look deeper. They don't want to look beyond, oh, they're nice. Just be nice. Be nice. Be nice. That's also a product of, that's another single motherhood thing. Oh, be nice, share your toys. That's the extent of the morality of a mother goes, if not informed by the man in her life. Now let's imagine if Allison Rapp and her husband have kids. What are they going to be? Maybe they'll be like this, and this is from her Twitter, where she says, "Don't hate on sex workers, prostitutes, whores, furries, women with big boobs, men who like kids/kid things, people who like pop music, romance plots, etc." And then she gives some quotes here. Quote, "More science, fewer dolls," unquote. Quote, "I like rap music that actually has a message," unquote. And the last one, which is the one we need to pay attention to. Quote, "Self/consensual sexuality before 18 is dangerous," unquote. And she says to all of this, stop. Stop saying all of this. Of course, you're a used up whore whose brain has gone numb. You've numbed your brain to cope with what you're doing to it. The untold psychological damage you are doing to it. Those that don't view sex as this psychologically impactful thing, this mentally impactful thing, you know that they are broken at the most fundamental level, and here you have it. Here you have it in this girl named Allison Rapp. And her spineless bitch boy husband, Jake Rapp. This is what you have, and this is what you find. Everywhere you go, this is what you find. This is how the average person behaves on at some degree. They think this is fine, this is okay. Because how many people do you know that have been divorced, that are a product of divorced parents? It's all the same thing. It's all a product of treachery. This is how people live. And maybe they aren't aware of it, maybe they don't know any better. But who cares? Wrong is wrong, no matter the intent behind it. As I said on last episode, that which inspires death is nice to those who are dead, who are the animated dead. You can't look at this and say this is the future of humanity. This is the future of our species. The way this woman behaves, this female behaves, can you genuinely, sincerely say to yourself, this is the future of humanity? The future of humanity Our species is in sound, good hands. They are a proper custodian of it. I think that if pressed, even the most depraved of people think, no, that's not right. And if they don't think it, they act that way. Think about the urbanites, the perpetual college students, ones that resemble this, a nice, cute white girl with a septum piercing. Ooh, she's alternative, and a guy who has permanent gay face, who wears female clothing. How many people, if we're close to the academic environment, we have friends in that environment? Hell, even in the corporate one. How many people do we know that fit this bill where they're so focused on their education and their career? They know that it's bullshit and that it's not long for this world. They know that what they're doing does not inspire life, does not inspire a greater, richer, more fulfilling life. That's why they don't have kids. If they thought what they were doing was right, or if they felt it, because their cells might be acting against them, right? They're saying, this is wrong. What you've done to me is wrong. We're going to end this right now. We're not going to procreate. That's what they're saying. That's what their body is telling them. Their body is telling them you are unfit. Their body is telling them, kill yourself. Now, I know that might be harsh, but how they cope with it, they get a job. They get an easy government job where they get tenure and pension, and that's what life's all about. That's what life is all about. And that is why we are in a permanent, perpetual decline. Because we put our faith in all of these worldly things. We think like, oh, that Bible says, one man, one woman, get married. No, that's antiquated. That's stupid. We rebelled against that rule. We as a people with our couple of extra IQ points, we think we're smarter than God. I'm sure Allison Rapp thinks she's smarter than God. I'm sure Jake Rapp thinks he's smarter than God. I'm sure that this dipshit thinks he's smarter than God, who we talked about last episode. And this comes from the Common Filth subreddit, r/Common Filth. This is from Huey Newton IF. And this is some disturbing stuff, so we're going to thank Huey Newton for unearthing this for us. Title: Milo Yiannopoulos talks about being raped by a black transsexual and admits to being a pedophile sympathizer. Oh, this is a happy self-actualized fella here. This is what inspires life. This is what contributes to the fitness of our species. So that's the title. Here's the rest of it. Hey CF, I don't know if you know about this yet, but I feel like this is something you should talk about in order to expose how deluded pro-gay right-wingers really are. No, look, I've had people tell me, like prominent people who really should know better, tell me like, oh, ours aren't like that. Continuing with the post. This reflects very poorly on one of their good gays, and exposes the kind of perverse mental gymnastics these faggots use to justify their actions, or more realistically, to justify the actions of others who destroyed them, both spiritually and mentally, in order to cope with their trauma. Yeah, I mean, the fact that, these right-wingers are putting up with this just goes to show you how seduced they are by moral relativism, which is what I thought we were trying to escape here. But apparently not. Even if you choose not to do anything with this footage, I hope some others will see it and do something with it. The rest of this post will be aimed at the general audience and thus will not be directed towards CF. Well, this will now be directed towards the general audience. Yeah. I think this deserves a lot of attention. I'm sure most of you won't be shocked to learn about Milo's view on this issue, but I feel it's important to share this information with as many people as possible. Milo joined TJ, the Amazing Atheist, and some other people on their Drunken Peasant podcast. And, that'll be important. I have something to say about their podcast. At some point, they played a clip of Milo talking to Joe Rogan about his early sexual experiences, including having sex with a black transsexual when he was only 14 years old. Milo goes on to defend this tranny, explaining that consent is complicated, especially in the gay community. as he like bobs and weaves his head like a child would when they talk. Developmentally stunted. These people, it's like, look, they need help. They need love. They don't need enabling. And that's all we're doing. That's what Breitbart's doing. That's what anybody who's like follows and promotes this guy, that's what they're doing. They're enabling. And he calls relationships between young boys and older men coming of age relationships. They always have very sunny, bright, glowing things to say about their abusers. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Milo is involved with NAMBLA. I'll provide a link to the video and add important timestamps below. At 59 minutes, Milo says, "I was the predator," in reference to him being raped by a tranny because he was a horny 14-year-old. At 62:08, hour and 2 minutes, 8 seconds, Milo complains about leftists pushing their oppressive idea of consent on the homosexual community. This is outrageous to Milo because he's a cultural libertarian, aka moral relativist. There you go. He then goes on to talk about how gay men guide young gay boys and help them in ways their parents can't. What did I tell you about these people viewing themselves as gods, as like more important than anybody else? People suffering from megalomania, it should be put into mental institutions, but instead we celebrate them as our European new right homos. They're the alpha homo, right? Yeah, that's what people actually believe. He then goes, okay, I already read that. Yeah, and he claims that these relationships are extremely beneficial. At hour 6 minutes, 6 seconds, TJ, the amazing banana fucker, defends Milo's pro-pedo views. This is disturbing considering many of TJ's fans are young and impressionable. I remember reading a long time ago, back when, he was, YouTube was still pretty new, even though he was one of the big names of it. I remember reading he had some post on a forum that said that putting a priest putting his penis in a child, that's the least harmful thing he puts in a child, referring to, preaching scripture, preaching the gospel. He thinks that that is more harmful than child rape. If you want to see the result of a child being raised by TJ's advice, go look at Mr. Rep Zion. Watch his descent into degenerate behavior and apathetic views. He goes from complaining about his parents telling him to not watch TJ to being an atheist. He was anti-porn when he was younger. Now he's all for it, as long as it's made by consenting adults. He used to be at least somewhat modest. Then he goes on to make videos about how he doesn't like condoms and how his liberal girlfriend loves anal. This is why we shouldn't let the internet raise our children. I actually agree with that. Let me make a note of that, what I want to talk about with regard to the internet being just the greatest compilation of weirdos, collection of weirdos you've ever seen. Yeah, I'll just write one word. That's all I need to remember. So yeah, all those timestamps, those are all the timestamps I'm going to add. Sorry for the rant at the end of the description of the last one, but I felt that it's necessary for me to put things in perspective. Who cares if TJ, a man who is known to pour hot oil on his genitals and stick bananas in his rectum, defends pedophilic? Well, we'll censor that other word. We've reached our quota there. People might care more if they see what these people are doing to our children and to society. No, they won't. I mean, we're alarmingly apathetic towards child abuse. God bless anyone who took the time to read this and watch the video. Please share it with friends or on other forums. Yeah, the link is on the subreddit. I already read the title of the thread. The one thing I do want to add, because they're a podcast called The Drunken Peasants, which they beefed with Tommy Sotomayor. Real hard for me to pick sides there. But I looked at the video, I downloaded it, and I looked at the timestamps, listened to it, the ones you provided, and I noticed something. They have a major sponsorship, the Drunken Peasants podcast. Major sponsorship from Audible, which I believe is owned by Amazon. They're making possible this podcast, this show. They're paying money to these people to promote their product. They're paying money to people that promote child rape. Consenting adults, that's fine to the average person. Pornography addiction, no, that's fine. That's good as long as you're not hurting anybody. You know, you might be hurting yourself, but, you know, who cares about that? It's your choice, dude. We have a saying in Europe. It's your choice. Actual comment I've received here. Yeah, that's fine, but child rape, child sexuality, that is right now at its present point. The present state of our culture, that's just a bridge too far for some people. That's going too far. Give it another 5 to 10 years and people might entertain the notion of it, but as of now, that's a little bit beyond the pale. And these guys, they're promoting this, and a major corporation is enabling this to happen. It is enabling the spread of this notion. I said it a few minutes ago and I'll say it again. For all our worldly achievements and the couple of IQ points extra that made it possible, for all these great things we've done, all these wonderful great things, academia, I'm a research professor. Yeah, how about that? Well, I write for a right-wing E-rag as a tech writer. Oh yeah, I'm a journalist whose only defining personality trait is, oh, I'm a gay guy who likes Donald Trump. You know, that's great. That is really great. Yet, it's not inspiring anybody to look at the future and say, yes, this is a future. This is a good future, and I'm going to contribute to it by having children. Do people now understand why white birth rates are so desperately low? We support monsters like this that say, oh, there's a lot to be learned from man-boy relationships. There's a lot to be learned that parents just can't give to a child. We support people like this. We celebrate those who view sexual predation as positive. Both Allison Rapp and Milo Yiannopoulos. What else? Here's the Vice front page right now. What do people care about? What really gets people going? A cop convicted of killing an unarmed black man isn't going to prison. These are headlines I'm reading. Does live streaming a rape make you a rapist? Why I threw an underground New York City weed party and invited the press. Now, when I see the words underground and NYC put together, well, fill in the blank. Oh, what about this one? 2 sakes and a loaf of challah with artist Chloe Wise. The 25-year-old sculptor and visual artist insists she's not a hater, she's a hedonist. Now, I assume this woman is Jewish because, well, she uses challah bread, which is good, by the way, but yeah, that's a tell. What kind of sculptures does Chloe Wise make? I'm gonna look this up right now. I'm gonna do a live hot take of her art. What do her sculptures look like? Oh, without a change in my heart rate, she makes sculptures of shit, food, some pancakes adorned with leather. Oh, masochism cuff set. So she is combining her Jewish heritage with her sexual perversion by making these cuffs, these handcuffs out of matzah bread, crackers, whatever you call it. Oh, she made a Star of David out of bacon. How irreverent and clever. What else? Oh, breakfast plates with bacon on it that spells out yoga, and that's her safe word. Good Lord. And this is like this is the high life to people. What else? What else do people care about? People who read Vice, which is a lot of people. Why Orthodox Jews aren't feeling the burn. Orthodox Jews from across the political spectrum have turned against the Brooklyn-born Democrat over his position on Israel. What else? So that's like 2 stories about Jews. Of course, they're in New York. Why wouldn't they be? What else? Oh, meet the beekeeper who fled war-torn Syria and is now making urban honey in Copenhagen. Good. This is like proof that the worst people survive genocides. What else? 22 houses preserve black history and culture in Houston. I don't know what that means. Coachella 2016 was proof that dance music doesn't need EDM to thrive. Oh, let's get to that one. A lot of people sent me this one. Yeah, Coachella is going on. I watched it. I watched Sunday night because Death Grips were playing. I wanted to check that out. But as my wire hits my pop filter, great. But yeah, I checked it out and I was looking at the other streams while I was waiting for that to start. And you just see these people in the audience. They look like the worst people. Which again, the worst people tend to survive genocides. But you can tell they're all drugged out. They're doing God knows what in public in plain view of these cameras. And this is the high life to people. Like, oh, I'll go to Coachella and find myself. There's right now, as we speak at Coachella, since I think it's still going on, there are lots of women who are going there to find themselves, and finding themselves, and men too, women and men. Oh, don't forget about the men, quote unquote men. They're at this moment right now at Coachella as we speak, as you listen to this, there are women doing drugs, sucking dick, and there are men doing the same thing, and they're all gonna write like an Eat, Pray, Love book about it, because it was the most meaningful thing. This is the most important thing in my life. So here we go from the New York Post. These moms spend thousands on cosmetic surgery to get Coachella ready, by Dory Lewick. What are you? I like to look at the authors of these. Okay, I don't know what you look like. Wait, you have a Twitter. What do you look like? What do you look like? Dyed hair? Oh, golden retriever girl. Of course. Sarah Mermelli is ready to face the music before heading to the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival in Indio, California this weekend. The 33-year-old divorced mother of two. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Were we listening back? Were we listening? Yeah, we were listening. I was listening to myself. I was talking about divorces and children. So there you go. Another woman who makes bad vagina decisions and makes the rest of us suffer for it. 33-year-old divorced mother of two blew $20,000 in preparation. Her clothing alone for the weekend, a sick outfit featuring a vintage Guns N' Roses t-shirt, YSL army jacket, denim cutoffs, corset, thigh-high leather boots, was $8,000. She spent thousands more on Botox, lip injections, boxing classes, and a personal trainer who helped her drop 10 pounds in advance of the 3-day-long concert in the California desert. Everything's about Coachella, says Mermelli, who started going to the Desert Festival after needing to cut loose following her divorce 6 years ago. This year is her 5th time attending. Getting ready for it doesn't have to be a full-time job, she says, but I'm making it one. Ooh, you go, girl. I'm sure you have a network of gay BFFs enabling you, saying, you do you, boo. You do you. The annual festival has long been a place for teens and 20-somethings to frolic and Instagram while inebriated and scantily clad in a 70-acre polo field, while also taking in a cacophony of pop, rock, electronic, and dance music. Well, I apologize for calling this woman a golden retriever girl so far, because she seems to view this as stupid as I do. Nubile young celebs like model actress Emily oh God, what kind of name is this? Ratajkowski, there we go. 24, and model DJ Chelsea Leyland, 25, are expected this year, and are sure to post plenty of sexy selfies in boho chic garb. But increasingly, and thanks to a growing number of nostalgia acts on the lineup, like this year's headliners, Guns N' Roses and LCD Sound System, the fest has also become a mecca for older women. They're indie rock gals looking to get their grooves back after bad breakups, and uptown wives clinging to their last vestiges of youth. Well, this woman who wrote this is surprisingly plugged in. Yeah, all these mid to early to mid 30s ladies who were real popular in college in the early to mid 2000s. They're real cool, They like to sleep with artists, and because they have real cool taste in movies and music, and yeah, they make really good decisions. They thought that they were making decisions. Oh, I'm in college, I gotta experiment. Because my parents, my evil conservative parents. So continuing, they spring for the $899 VIP passes so they'll have access to fancier porta potties than the young plebes, only shelling out $3.99 for regular tickets. That is absurd. That's what middle-class millennials are doing. They're going to Coachella to do drugs and experiment. And they spend even more to look their best on the big weekend. Why? You're going to be outdoors, sweating, in the desert heat. Who wants that? That's terrible. You can go like a peasant too, but it's going to suck, says Mermelli, who splits her time between Miami and Midtown and works as an associate publisher for Hout Living when she's not prepping for Cella. Oh, that's what they call it. That's cute. That's clever. That's funny. The goal is looking blog ready. Oh, man. The life of the urbanite. I mean, look, I'm a suburbanite. Look, I'm a housing bubble kid. I saw it all firsthand. I saw, well, let's hire the Mexican to do our garden. They do a good job. Yeah, we have them to blame. Well, they do a good job. Yeah, what? They're using our money to send over so that their La Raza face tattoo cousins can come over too? Well, I'm sure they're nice people too. It's your fault. It's your fault, amongst many other faults. Amongst many other fuck-ups. It's not just one mistake. It is a series of mistakes. We can blame Ted Kennedy for opening the floodgates of third world immigration. Fine. But who voted for him? Who approved his bill to do that? Millions of people. Millions of people who voted in a certain way. It all added up to that. And then what? We as a culture decide no, we don't need to make English our official language to give ourselves a barrier to this invasion. No, we're not going to do that. That's blank. But hey, at least we get to go to Coachella and work as an associate publisher and get divorced and have 2 kids. Instead of raising my kids, saving that money for them. Nah, I'm going to spend it on Coachella and find myself. It all adds up. I mentioned Woodstock 99 recently, which I actually want to do a whole episode about. At least not, if not a whole episode, a segment. Because I think that was really one of the obvious final nails in our coffin. And there's more. There's a lot more to this article. New York doctors who specialize in fountain of youth procedures say they've noticed an uptick in ladies looking for nips, tucks, and tightenings before heading to Coachella. After all, our society was a decadent one. About 2 months ago, when Guns N' Roses mentioned they would play, more women in their 40s started coming in, says Dr. Norman Rowe, an Upper East Side plastic surgeon whose main focus is fat reduction procedures. They were living their teen years that they spent being Guns N' Roses groupies. Look, and that might be the most accomplished among them. Think about the cover band guys they slept with. Oh yeah, that's a real good decision you made. He recalls one patient in her mid-30s who pleaded with him saying, I want to wear this crop top like I did when I saw Guns N' Roses back in the 90s. Oh, man. A preoccupation with nostalgia is another sign that you're doing it wrong. But music is only part of the festival's draw. There are pool parties and younger guys to flirt with, and it's a nice opportunity to rent an elaborate vacation home. Mermelli and a gaggle of girlfriends are sharing a sick house in Tony La Quinta, complete with a makeup artist in residence, a pool, and a movie room. Last year they even traveled in a private jet. It's fun for me to feel cool, Mermelli says. You would get down with people you normally wouldn't speak to. They wouldn't normally have access to you. But what, you wouldn't get to speak to people with far too much disposable income? No, you couldn't do that anywhere, no. You don't do that in your everyday life. No, you don't do that. Mermelli's friend and fellow Coachella goer, Brooklynite, of course, Annette Cooper, 36, is so intent on looking cool that she hires a personal stylist, Brandon Fogel, to source the right clothes. He styled me last year. He knows my style. I'm very much a bohemian flowery girl type. Now, imagine if I said that. Like, I'm a blankety type. Imagine if I said that, or any other dude who said something like that. You'd want to kick my ass. She says, Cooper, a mom of 3, the bohemian flowery girl type who has a personal stylist for her Coachella trip, a mom of 3, who first attended the festival last year wearing designer duds by Zimmerman and Balmain after her 15-year marriage ended. This is a genius piece of journalism, by the way. I need to say that. My skepticism, my assumptions, I have egg on my face. I have egg all over it because this is... You don't need to read between the lines. You just need to be aware of the context in which we live, the societal context in which we live, to realize what is being said here. So, genius piece of journalism. I scrolled up on accident. I was 35, I said, I have to do it. I've always wanted to do it. She always wanted to... Designer labels aside, she says there are practical considerations to keep in mind. I'm normally a girl with heels, but you really have to have a comfortable shoe, because it's all about the music, she says, but then quickly admits that it's not really all about the music. The draws that the people go, she says, it's amazing. We met oncologists, real estate developers, bankers. I was amazed. Do I have that ticket still? Back when I was like an early 20s piece of shit? See, I don't do this anymore. I mean, it was only 6 years ago. But I have a ticket right here. It's in a box. I don't know why. Should have just thrown this away. Yeah, I paid $50 back in April 2010 to go to this one festival that was held at like a NASA tarmac. Yeah, I paid $50 for this, and that was, a lot of money to somebody like me back then. It would be a lot of money to me now, and, this was me back when I was 20. And I let that go. I stopped doing that stuff. And this was just like a one-day thing. $50, I saw it. There was Black Keys, Les Claypool, Common, and NERD or Nerd. I don't know how to. Yeah. Yeah, I saw those. I saw that, and there were some DJs. There was a one-day thing, and I don't do that anymore. I grew up. No, I didn't grow up, because look, there's nothing wrong with paying a ticket to see a band you've never seen that you really like. Okay, I get it. One-time thing, no big deal. You can do that. So I shouldn't say I grew up. I moved on. These women, what are they doing? And what am I still doing holding on to this ticket stub? This is why I held on to this, to use this as an example. An example of what's frivolous and what's really important. Spending $900 for a VIP pass at some festival that lasts X amount of days. It's absurd. Aside from men with status jobs, there are, of course, plenty of pretty young things in the desert. That competition led Erin Crowley, 33, to phone her plastic surgeon right after buying her tickets earlier this month. I called and said, "What can I do that's going to show right now? I need something strong." The single mom paid $8,000, $8,000 to have fat removed from her stomach and inner thighs earlier this week before she heads to Coachella next weekend. The festival takes place with the same lineup over 2 weekends. She also dyed her hair, got fake eyelashes, and had her lips plumped by her plastic surgeon, Dr. Rowe. "I need to do my best to prepare for the outfits that I'm wearing," says Crowley, who works as a hairdresser and lives in Putnam County. "I'm kind of wearing short shorts and crop tops." You're a hairdresser and you can afford that kind of thing. You know, you can write that check. You're able to write that check. God, what are we doing? And she notes the competition is tough. "It's all the young girls," laments Crowley, who's hitting the fest with her 23-year-old baby sister who has a perfect little body. She's a selfie queen, of course. Of course she is. And they have a picture of her. You know, you could just be content with the ordinary. It's like, look, this woman looks like nothing special, but, you know, nothing you'd be ashamed of having as a wife, right? Apparently somebody did, right? Is she? I don't know. No, that was somebody else. But look, you're 33 and you're prancing around like a sister who's 10 years your junior. And this is how she's spending what should be her, you know, nurturing years, her calming down years. And this is how her sister's spending her reproductive peak years, going to festivals and finding herself, being a selfie queen. I want to look my best for the photographs, and you can't hide anything in natural light. But just add a couple of filters on it. They got a filter for that. But Mermelli says she's not intimidated by millennial music lovers. "I have the confidence that they don't have," she says. What the hell does confidence have to do with it? Oh no, it probably does to these guys who are conditioned. No, it's what they want, really. It's not conditioning. Conditioning implies that it's not really their fault. It is. It is what comes from a man's heart that defiles him. But she's got the confidence. Yeah, I'm sure they're really into the chicks that act like they have a penis. That's sincere. They probably do. They're younger and they don't have careers. They act all entitled, but they don't have anything to back it up. "Oh man, you have some nice careers." "Oh man, I should take you back to the hotel room and look at your career?" Christina R., 39, a married mother. There's more? Christina R., a married mother of 2, is headed to Coachella with some girlfriends after spending about $5,000 to have the skin on her stomach and the backs of her legs tightened. "I'm feeling very confident. My whole abdomen is tight," says the Upper East Sider, who works at an art gallery and has a $10,000 clothing budget for the weekend, mostly devoted to YSL crop tops, bikinis, and jean shorts to cut off around the tush. And you're 39 and you're doing this. "Hopefully I'm not too old," says Christina, who declined to give her last name for professional reasons. "I'm so young at heart. When I get away from my husband and the children, I don't really feel old." Wait, so you're... Let's do the math here. Let's do the social math. Married mother of 2, spending $5,000 on plastic surgery to go to the West Coast to a music festival where these women are intent on getting some fresh meat, some strange meat, and she wants to, and she spent $10,000 on her clothing, and her clothing is crop tops, bikinis, and jean shorts, quote unquote, cut off around the tush. Married, mother of 2. What's she doing? What's she doing prancing about like this? "When I get away from my husband and the children, I don't really feel old." Yeah. He makes me feel young. All these young boys make me feel young. Well, and while her husband doesn't really understand her festival frolicking needs, he's supportive. He just wants me to be happy, she says. You know, again, this is enabling. This is not support. This is... It's an abomination. This isn't support. Supporting $5,000 on plastic surgery, $10,000 on clothing, whatever she paid for the ticket, and that's being supportive. Again, men who are slaves to vagina. Oh, she's a warm hole. It feels good. I'm gonna spend $15,000. I'm gonna spend $15,000 to make sure I still have this. Why would you marry a woman with such proclivity? We're gonna finish this, so we're gonna finish this. A woman is never, quote, too old, unquote, according to Patricia Field, the celebrity stylist who did the costumes on Sex and the City and also works on the current TV Land show Younger, about a 40-year-old woman trying to pass for 26 now. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? You see a common thread between these two things promoting the same kind of agenda. Oh, you still got it, honey. Which wasn't a gay guy responsible for Sex and the City? And of course, you're never too old. Yeah, of course you're gonna say that. Your livelihood depends on delusion, on psychosis. Field went to Coachella for the first time last year at the age of 73. 73, and you're still doing this. In life, you have to live it. You can't go by notions of what you do at this or that age, she says. You have to live your life by how you feel. Oh, that's sustainable. We aren't living in the void that's created. Nah. But some women admit after going to Coachella that maybe they're too old for it. I'm a mom. I'm not walking around in a flower crown, says Jamie Hess, 35, who works in public relations and lives on the Upper West Side. She went last year when she was 5 months pregnant and is going this year. But she's self-aware about what she sees as age appropriate. When I'd go to Madison Square Garden as a teen, I'd see the mom from Jersey trying to relive her youth in her bangs and hairspray. It's like, no, honey, she says. No one wants to be seen as the geezer who's trying too hard. Yeah, fair enough. She says the festival has become a common event in her social circle. I was literally at a party 2 weeks ago, and an hors d'oeuvres plate came around, and someone at my age said, oh no, Coachella is coming up. Good Lord. Patricia, a 42-year-old from the Upper East Side who declined to give her last name for privacy reasons, isn't one of the women watching her waistline. She went to Coachella last year and has no plans to go back. It's really young, she says, complaining of the music being too loud and her hotel being a 24-hour party. And then there were the fashions. I felt like all the young girls were wearing high-waisted jean shorts with their ass hanging out. Hey, well, there's like a mid-30s, or no, 39-year-old woman doing the same thing, and she's married. That doesn't set off alarms now. That's fine. But they're young. They can do that. She says, I'm too old for it. If I was younger, it would be a lot cooler. Not really. And that's all. That's it. It's one of the best pieces of journalism, again, I've read in a long time. So I'm glad I could share that with you, and credit to the woman who's responsible for it. So we'll do some Reddit questions. There's only 7 of them. And then I got to get to getting, because I've got a lot of work to do. I want to deliver. So here we go. Hi, so you have some background info. I'm biracial and was born out of wedlock to a father who left a few years later. Wow, what a surprise. Thankfully, I didn't go through a fuck you mom and dad phase, and my daddy/racial identity issues didn't manifest into whoring around or becoming Elliot Rodger. The gentleman was a very extreme, very strange case, which, by the way, I remember reading a quote from him, from his manifesto. I saw like a white girl with a black guy, and he's like, why does he have her? He's descended from slaves. I'm descended from British aristocracy. It's been almost 2 years since that happened, since he killed all those people. From the outside, my life looks like a BuzzFeed article. I did extremely well in school despite language/cultural barriers. We got ourselves out of poverty after a few years. But there are a few things I hate more than single motherhood. I wasn't shy or introverted like everyone thought I was. I was just deeply sad and alone. I barely saw my mom because she would work long hours to pay for everything. And I didn't know how to interact with any other kids, forget about the opposite sex, so all I did was study. I'm not trying to downplay the issues related to being mixed race, and I certainly don't encourage it, but that was at the bottom of my list of concerns when I was a kid. I never cried because my dad was Asian, but I cried a lot when I realized he never loved me. Yeah, and that is why I think divorce is the most damaging thing to kids. And that's because it is the most prevalent. There are far more kids that are a product of divorce than there are mixed race kids. Look how many divorced mother of X. Divorced mothers of X amount of kids in that article I just read. But continuing, when I was younger, I used to lie to my friends and family and told them that growing up without a father didn't upset me whenever they asked. I never believed this myself, and I'm not entirely sure why I kept it a secret. Well, I understand you're trying to save face, and when people are younger, I think they're less comfortable showing that emotional vulnerability, so I understand why you kept it a secret. Going into personal details about my past makes me uncomfortable, but the idea of someone using me to justify being a single mother makes me feel worse. I've already decided to be more honest, but I'm interested in hearing your opinion. You say that some people's lives should be used as a warning to others. What if their failures aren't visible? Is it enough to quietly fix a mistake and go on with your life, or do you have a responsibility to warn others no matter how embarrassing it is? May God bless you and your family, CF. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you very much for that, those kind words, and thank you very much for the question. And I don't think it's a failure on your behalf, and it's really an embarrassment for your mom and your dad, to be honest with you, who did a very irresponsible thing by laying down with each other, conceiving, and not raising the child together. That's their shame. It's not yours. So I think the shame you feel is on their behalf. That's just you being a child. The child is connected with their parents, whether they like it or not, so what the parent does, it has an effect on the child. But realize it's their mistake, not yours. And I think that as you get older, you'll find it easier to be honest about it, how damaging of an effect it had on you. And I just noticed your name on Reddit is Supreme Gentlewoman. At least you got a sense of humor. But when I say that some people's lives are just examples to others of how not to be, those are usually just the worst kind of people. Like the absolute worst. Like the kinds we have talked about all throughout this episode. Those are the kinds of people that should just be used as a negative example, point to that and say, that's what will become of you if you do this. So obviously that's not the case for you at all, and you can be an example. You can be a positive example. You can be a positive example of, look, you can overcome these barriers, these obstacles. You can overcome a rough start and some rough circumstances. But at the same time, I do think you should be honest with people about the conflicts you felt. About, look, here's what not having a dad around did to me. And you can also say to people, I had something to help me cope, and that was studying. But most people don't have something that they use to cope with whatever conflict they have as a result of their parents not loving each other. Most people don't have a way to cope with the fact that their parents, they created something. They created a permanent reminder of temporary feelings. And how many people never recover after that start to life? So that's what you got to remind people of. That's what you have to talk about, because people will see you as an authority. So use that authority. Use that authority to dispel the disturbingly popular notion that single motherhood is morally equal to mother and father together raising children. And I said that most people think it's fine and it's equal, but I think that the way we go out of our way to celebrate it, the way we go out of our way to say, wow, single mom's so brave, we actually think it's superior. But, that's a little more difficult to prove. But we read a story from somewhere a while back on this show about how there's a silent cultural revolution taking place in America, and its name is Don't Judge. Don't judge. Don't judge. And in that article, it cites a poll, and I think the number was 60%. 60% of people believe that single motherhood is fine. It's fine. And that's where we are as a culture. ICF, interesting comment on celibacy. I think your comment was reasonable. Celibacy does have roots in scripture from St. Paul to St. John the Baptist. And the Nazarites. Look it up. It is comforting to know God provides a place for people who are not called to have children. Married men being allowed to the priesthood strikes a happy middle between being a celibate monk, whose life is constant spiritual combat, and a regular layperson with worldly cares. I'd like to see the end of that church discipline in the Roman Church myself. Again, if it hasn't been said, celibacy is a church discipline, not church law. That's why you can sometimes find some Roman Catholic priests with wives and children. That's interesting. I didn't know that. But a possible issue with married priests is exemplified by the case of the Ukrainian Catholics in the 19th and 20th century. They have a different worship culture from the Roman Catholics, but they are also considered Catholics. Their priests regularly have wives and children, to the effect that priests have established dynasties. And as you and a commenter pointed out, they were some of the smartest people in Ukrainian society. Here's the twist, though. The sons of those priests were the bored, aristocratic, overeducated types who supported revolutionary ideologies that ultimately ended up with them being persecuted by the revolutionaries they nurtured. In short, married priests in the West will probably have the same issues as other married men, same temptations and same weakness. But there should be some larger allowance to make men who actually have experience in having a family speak to their congregation who also have families. It also counteracts the homosexual culture that can arise from seminaries. Very interesting. I learned a few things from that. Real interesting how the sons of the Ukrainian priests turned out. But that's what they get for being stupid and decadent. I just don't understand how, if you're married or you're looking to get married and you want to get marriage counseling, you want to receive marriage counseling through the church, I don't get why you would do that, because the man counseling you is a virgin, a geriatric virgin who's not married and does not have a family. How are you going to listen to somebody that hasn't walked that path, that has taken a rather opposite path? So, good comment though. Thank you for it. Hey CF, I found out about your channel and everything about a month ago, and since then have watched almost all of your podcasts. I greatly appreciate what you do and want to thank you. I have a few personal issues to address that I'll keep as concise as possible. I'll do my best to summarize. Growing up, I had a normal childhood, aside from the fact that my father isn't religious and my mother is. However, around the time I was in 8th grade, my mother became a very heavy drinker. She wasn't a mean drunk, but my dad has a full-time job, so she didn't do much to take care of us. This led me to having an edgy atheist phase, an emo phase, and eventually a major depression, which I'm currently emerging from. I'm 19 now. I had a very good Christian girlfriend for 2 years who left on good terms for college in Boston. My current issues have to do with religion and women in general. My mother is stuck 4 years back due to the alcoholism, so she still tries to take care of me like I'm a child. While I won't outright be rude to her, I like your advice to forgive but not forget. Now my father is not religious, but he is the one man who has kept our family together and has kept me and my 2 sisters from going off the rails. My one sister even attends a Christian youth group. However, my faith in women is somewhat scarred due to all of the feminist bullshit I see around campus, and especially due to my mother. I would never be a misogynist or an atheist again, but I'm afraid that I'll permanently have trust issues in both women and God. I realize this has been all over the place, and I apologize for that. It's hard to stay on track with so many things I want to ask. I'll give you the TLDR, how to deal with women when I have mommy issues, and how to have faith in God when my biggest role model does not. When I was 19, I didn't have anything like that going for me, thankfully. But you're 19. And at 19, I still had faith in worldly things, which were subsequently betrayed over the following years. And it took me a while to learn that God doesn't let you down, you let you down. You align yourself with less than virtuous people, and what happens? For me, not something as extreme as this, but people disappoint you in ways that you didn't quite see coming. And then you realize, wait, putting your faith in people, when people change so frequently, when people do strange, irrational things, they're not constant. I understand that you love and you respect your father. That's fine. But you have to realize he is flawed. He's most likely deeply flawed. And I get it, you're looking for someone to model your behavior after. In some respects, your father does the right thing. But in many respects, he most likely does not. And you'll learn this from experience, and you're not the only one with this problem, but your faith in God seems to be filtered through man. And you need to let that go, because man is corrupted. And as long as you view man as a representation of God, you will be disappointed over and over again, time and time again, for the rest of your life. And don't place your faith in women either. They too are fallen creatures. And I know we were blinded by that because they're cute and nice and cuddly, but they're very flawed creatures themselves. So that's all I have to say. You're still young. Give yourself patience. Don't put your faith in man or woman. This is not to say that you should hate or disrespect your fellow man, but approach them with a degree of skepticism. And that's all. Thank you for the comment question. Next. First off, thank you for answering my comment on the show, CF, and for all the advice, especially on the alt-right from listening to more of your show. I went and followed your advice and picked up the King James Bible and now read it every morning and every night before sleep. Thank you for the advice. My father was a degenerate who left my mother after he promised to marry her, and she truly thought that he would stay to his word. I needed to clear that up since you seem to have misunderstood. I ask you now this, how can I avoid sin as best I can? God bless. Prayer and something physically rigorous. If you feel like you're going to do some wrong, go for a run. And if you are not in a situation where you can run, pray. Talk to God. Dear CF, I don't know any nicer way to tell this to you. Don't take it as an insult or a threat or me being a whiner. It's just a concerned notification of sorts. Remember how I requested you about stopping cussing? Well, since I have to feed my mind with God's goodness, I just from my conscience can't continue listening to a person who claims to be a child of God and continues using foul words unrepentantly continuously to the public. I'm sorry, CF. I know it's hard to quit cussing when the habit comes. I have that problem too, and I'll pray for you and hope the sin leaves your life as well as mine. Since it just isn't edifying for my soul, which already has a lot of sins and has that bad habit, I will unsubscribe and stop watching your vids until you stop. Sorry, CF, but I love you as a brother in Christ. Do stay strong and fight the good against sin. Fine, I get it. I understand. But it would be very difficult for me to go back and edit out all of the things I say out of passion, out of anger. These things I say as a reaction to things that are far worse than profane words. You live in a world where Vice.com, we read the headlines earlier on, Vice.com, 166th most visited website in the world, 79th in the United States. They have another section where they talk about the highs and lows of swinging in your 20s. We chatted to a few orgy goers. Yeah, party goers. Yeah, that's a great party. about their most memorable sex parties. Or what about this one? This woman turned her collection of unsolicited dick pics into an art show. Dear straight guys, it's time to start putting things in your butt, that kind of stuff. So there are only a few words I can use to describe these people. But for your sake, I guess I'll refrain for now. Next, LOCF, you mentioned Iron March in your last episode. What do you think of the Iron March community, Alex Slavers and his fascisms? They're good people, but I don't trust them completely, as their ideology tends to put man over God, race worship, and faith in human works, and leans towards Evola, a degenerate faggot, and a bulk of them are edgy retards and heathens who speak from a relativist point of view. But in general, they are pro-tradical and antithetical to the degenericizers, traitorisms, and cuckeries of the alt-right, which I very much appreciate. Have you joined? What was your experience with them? No. I got an email from one of their members, and it came to my attention that they had a thread about me where they have list all my videos. So I give thanks where thanks is due. I'm thankful to most people that share my stuff, save for My Little Pony forums and asexual forums. So yeah, no direct experience with them on their forum. I haven't joined or anything. But if what you're saying is true, it's not terribly different from anything else I've seen. Those who place a premium on ideology, those who speak out of ideological obligation rather than obligation to the truth, they tend to have these flaws. So that's why I've gotten away from that whole thing. And you might be able to put a name to the ideas I talk about, but they're not ideas for the sake of ideas. Intellectual masturbation and obsessing over minutia, it doesn't get you anywhere. So I don't care about saying words to fit under a banner. People are going to do that anyway, so you can decide. I know better now. Next and last. Do you think there is a way to fix the spiritual damage inflicted on white people as a whole, or is it irreversible? There's no way to fix it on our own. There's no way to fix it on our own. Because the damage inflicted upon us is inflicted by ourselves. Under the guise of, no, this will actually be good for us. And you can blame Jews, you can blame blacks, you can blame this, you can blame that. But a merchant cannot survive if he does not have customers. And that's all I'm going to say. So thank you for listening. I'm going to get to work on that thing I need to work on, and I will talk to you again eventually.
Grown, ain't I? The skinny nigga with the fro to the slightly bigger nigga who's a killer with the flow. Went from YouTube beats and SoundCloud, nigga. The only difference now is that I found Twitter. Fuck it, it's struggle rap, man. They never see the trouble that I'm going through. The way I sing, they think I live in bubble wrap. Fuck all that, even though I'm on some poppin' shit. With my niggas as my witness, I'm a nigga who can spit. Don't believe me? Overlooking my potential, I'm that poet to a phone, that poet was to a pencil. My mental is similar to that of a lion, and I'm the king of